be speaking about the Nation Builders Corp policy. We will be speaking very soon to the Deputy Employment and Labour Relations Minister, Bright Rekobrobe. Some questions have been raised about this policy, and we will be going chiefly by the TUC. So at the moment, we have been joined on the phone by local government expert George Sheba to speak to us about the creation of the new district. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheba, for joining us. Right. So we have with us, joining us live from the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, the Deputy Employment and Labour Relations Minister, Bright Rekobrobe, because the Trades Union Congress, TUC, is asking government to provide more details about the newly announced Nation Builders Corps program, which is expected to employ 100,000 graduates in 2018. The program was announced during the Finance Minister's reading of the 2018 budget and economic policy on Wednesday. Now, the TUC welcomes this bold initiative. However, they are asking governments to indicate the length of the program and the status of the persons who would be hired, whether or not they'll be permanent staff or casual. We'll be going into the details of that statement later in the show. But at the moment, we have been joined by the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekobrobe, to get the answers to these questions. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So, first of all, what will be the status of these 100,000 people who will be hired through this program? Will they be permanent staff, or it will be like a national service?
No, it's not going to be a national service. It's going to be something permanent that we are looking at. But before I expatiate, let me say good morning to our viewers and thank everybody for making it so we can explain some of the things that have been captured in the budget statement.
Right. So you were telling us that it will be permanent. Does that mean that when they are going into these modules that were named by the Finance Minister, the Heal Ghana module for trainee nurses, the various modules that were named, they will be permanently employed by the ministry?
That is what we are expecting. In any case, let me put it on record. There is no job like permanent job. People get jobs, and even on the job, they decide at some point in their lives to do one or two things differently. So not necessarily saying that permanent as in the person stuck to it till retirement. But if somebody wants to be on the job till retirement, that will be an option.
So how sustainable will this program be? We can imagine that you would have hundreds of thousands of young graduates coming out almost every year.
Yes. What is going to happen is that this is a program that is targeting building the nation. And as people work to enhance productivity and give it up, this is where they are also going to contribute to the GDP of the country. And certainly, yes, monies will be generated and sustain this program, as in all employment that we have here in Ghana.
Right, but for some of the sectors, questions would be raised about if those sectors can, take the extra numbers that will be coming every year. For instance, if you are talking about extension services, are you saying that we'll need new extension officers to join these old extension officers every year, having tens of thousands to join them every single year? Do those sectors have the capacity to take these people?
I think that people are misconstruing and understanding what we mean here. The creation of the 100,000, as we are targeting in 2018, it is not, for example, in January, we are going to roll out 100,000 jobs. No, we already have a backlog. We have a backlog of graduate unemployment. And that is what certainly we need to address. So these programs and interventions will be rolled out in phases. So certainly not the 100,000 per se at a go, but we are targeting that the backlog of unemployed graduates that we have, we are going to ensure we put them in these strategic sectors to reduce that drastically. And so if they are in employment and more of them are coming on year by year, we seek to roll them on. So it is not as if the 100,000 that is in the budget is going to be done by end of January or February. It is something that is programmatic. So we are thinking through and will seek to be rolling them out, especially in the 5 thematic areas where we seek to put people in the health sector, people in the agri sector, people in the teaching field, people in the sanitation model, and so on and so forth. So it is us, and when we are coming up to see these are the gaps that we have to fill, and these are the people ready for the jobs, and then we roll them. So it is not a one-go project that this is what we are going to do, by end of February we get there. We are going to seek to roll them gradually and ensure that we cover up to about 100,000 of these unemployed graduates.
By which period are you looking at reaching 100,000 people?
We have captured in our budget that by end of 2018, the year 2018, we would roll about 100,000. So that speaks for itself.
Right.
But as the program implementation takes office and we start rolling, we would see how far we can go before the end of year 2018.
So, Mr. Rekubebe, I would ask that you'd hold on for just a moment because the TUC did release a statement on this, their review of the budget where some of these questions were raised, and my colleague Josefa Table has joined me in the studio with the details of that review. Joseph, what does this review say about the Nation Builders Corps?
Two main issues they raise in there. I mean, two of those issues have been addressed by the Deputy Minister. It has to do with how the model will be rolled out. They make the point that they think that it's an ambitious program. It is very important. Government needs to address the job challenge. But those two concerns that have been addressed, the first has to do with how many years will the program employ the graduates? That was the question you're trying to find out from him as to the duration, whether it's permanent or not. And the second issue has to do with, is it going to be like the 1-year national service scheme? Is the other question they're asking. But beyond these two, they again asking that once these people are employed, they say that labor is mobile, they may move from that government sector into the private sector now. So they're asking questions that is important to make the private sector very favorable so that there will be more opportunities for individuals who want to even move from the employment of government into the private sector. So that part of the statement here, if I can just read that part verbatim, it says the 100,000 graduates that will be employed in 2018 will at some point have to transit into the mainstream labor market after they have acquired further skills and experiences that others can also benefit from the program. Strengthening the domestic private sector to absorb the beneficiaries of the Nation Builders Corps program will ease that transition. So that is it with regards to the Nation Builders Corps. Right.
We'll be going into the other sections of the review because they did review the entire budget. But let's go back to the Deputy Minister, Mr. Rekubebe, already addressing some of the issues that the TUC has raised. But let me find out, if you are to look into these areas, these 5 sectors, and again, like you said, health, agri, teaching, sanitation, there's also revenue generation, and you realize that those sectors cannot take up to 100,000 people by end 2018, what happens?
Yeah, what we are seeking to do is a very coordinated, employment program. As you will observe, this is a ministry that traditionally, it's not employment creation ministry. It is employment coordination ministry. But this initiative of the president is being given to the ministry to coordinate. This means that even on the job, there will be lots of skills building. And like I said earlier, people are very free as they work to even move around within the same environment. So people are not going to be stuck and kept like as in one schedule. People will be very free to, as it were, move into other sectors of where they find themselves. But the question of whether it's going to be casual or it's going to be permanent is what I addressed earlier. It doesn't mean that people will also be stuck on one kind of job, because the coordination, as we are looking at, will even have relationship with the National Entrepreneurial Innovation Plan program, which will also equip people with skills, with entrepreneurial ideas. And as they seek to migrate and do other things, we will fill the gap that unemployment has created. So it's a very much coordinated program, and we need to embrace it as such. Remember also the name Nation Builders Corps. These are people we are thinking are part and must be the main bane of nation building. So if we have a crop of such people who are unemployed, it is worrisome to government. One other thing that this program seeks to address is the mass unemployment that the National Service Scheme creates. Immediately people complete their service. And this is the gap we also want to fill. Remember, this year alone, over 100,000 people are enrolled in the National Service Scheme. Can you imagine sometime in June or July when they are about to exit, and the agitations and the insecurity of job that comes to them? This is where this program becomes very, very pragmatic and ready and alert to absorb all that crop of graduates that will be turning out. Another thing for us to know is that when we are talking about the graduate unemployment, it's not limited to only the university graduates. Our polytechnics now are roped into the university status. The private universities are churning out more people. So as a country, we need to be thinking smart and looking into the future of work for these kinds of people who will come and support us build the nation.
Okay, so Honorable,
so the Nation Builders Corps.
If I may, by your words, by the statistics you are churning out, 100,000 people doing national service right now, it's possible that we'll have 100,000 people every year. How do we know that every year we would have space, just like you're saying that it may not even be possible that we won't hire up to 100,000 people in 2018? How do we know that we can absorb all these people year in, year out?
Remember also that every year, statistics that we are given by ISA indicates that about 10% of people who do national service get jobs. You know, and apart from the Nation's Builders Corps, there are other interventions in so many areas. The conventional employment ministries will keep on adding. For instance, the Ghana Education Service itself is an employee ministry. The health ministry is an employee ministry. The defense, the interior. This will keep on employing anyway, but this is only strategic and an innovation by the presidency to ensure that that gap of unemployment is filled.
Right. So there are concerns that for programs like this, sometimes they target party foot soldiers and sympathizers. How do we know that this time every Ghanaian gets a fair share of those 100,000?
Thanks for the question. You know that normally people are very insecure, especially when things have been done in the past and they were faced and confronted with certain events and situations which they didn't admire. I recall a couple of years ago, our colleagues on the other side had a symposium or brought their people together and targeted them that we want to create jobs for NDC boys and girls. This is a departure from what our colleagues have done in the past. Remember, we have done 2-3 job openings since we came this year. And you recall, in the local government service, for example, you see a whole graphic page advertising and allowing everybody to apply and be on board. The next was GRA. They had a whole page. Meanwhile, these were discussed as a government that there are job opportunities for which we need to fill gaps. But in order to be fair to all Ghanaians, opportunities were opened widely for everybody to apply and be so. And the president has on several occasions made it clear that he's living up to what his oath of allegiance. It is to Ghana and not to one particular party. I must tell you that most of our boys and girls in the MPP are not happy the way we, the leadership, are going about things and having even spread of everything for everybody. But that is what we have to do. That's what we are faced with.
Okay, Honorable.
We must not let any youth be disadvantaged because his father or mother belongs to another political party. No.
Right.
These are all Ghanaians and Ghanaian children, and we must target them in everything that we do.
Right, Honorable. Finally, do we have any funding lines in crafting this program, putting it together? Did we put to get down any specific channels of income where the money will be coming from to pay these young people?
Yes, as we speak, the budget has a commitment of 300 million to begin this program, and another 300 million committed to it all in year 2018. So this is where we are looking at. It's committed funds already to do that. And remember that this is an initiative of the presidency, and it is accommodated and housed in the office of the president, even though it will be coordinated from the employment ministry. So that is already committed. And like I said
the budget,
earlier,
the 300 million
this
comes
will
from the office
provide
of the president.
and also add on.
I was
Again,
asking if the 300 million comes from the office of the president.
It is coming from the budget through the office of the president.
But the YEA, for instance, had specific taxes that were devoted, like the communication service tax and the gov't fund, a percentage from gov't fund, that we knew that every year we have monies from here going to the YEA. With this case, do we have any specific income lines coming there?
Well, the contemplation of this idea has come with that funding initially to be committed in the budget. As we roll out, there will be more thinking through and how Ghanaians will buy into it and how we will come up with a more sustainable funding for this initiative.
Thank you very much, Bryce Rekubobe, for your time. He's Deputy Employment and Labour Relations Minister, giving us details there about the Nation Builders Corp. So, Joseph, the TUC, like I said, had a complete review. What are some of the other issues they raised?
They are talking about trade policy. They are saying that Ghanaian manufacturers find it difficult competing with other countries. So even though they commended government for announcing some relief in terms of taxes, electricity tariffs are expected to go down, they want government to look at how to ensure that Ghanaian manufacturers can be competitive on the world stage. The other issue they also talk about is that the issue of cost of borrowing. They said they've been efforts to help them with business, but they still need more funds, and they want government to address that concern as well. So generally, it has to do more with how to ensure that their businesses can thrive, and it all has to do with the economy, and that is what they want government to do.
It's interesting that it's workers who are asking about business. You usually find workers asking about workers' conditions and what have you, right? Thank you very much, Josefa Table. He's my colleague in the newsroom, bringing us details of the TUC's review of the 2018 budget.